Hi, this is Carla, and I'm redoing the nutrition label explanation to see if I can fix the size problem. Since it didn't seem to upload the first time around, I took the opportunity to redo it. So this is a nutrition label from a Big Mac. I downloaded it from nutritiondata.com. We're going to learn more about that online tool a little bit later. But when you're looking at a nutrition label, I first look at the serving size up at the top. The Big Mac is simple, it's one item, and so that's the serving size. But many food companies with packaged foods that you buy at the grocery store will try to make their nutrition label look really healthy or good by reducing the serving size that is listed. So for example, one 6-ounce can of tuna is listed as having 3 servings in it. So a serving size is only 2 ounces. And oftentimes soft drinks um, will have a serving size of half the bottle or 1/3 of the bottle. So when the average person like you and I look at the nutrition label, the first thing we tend to look at is the calories. And if we see that there are 200 calories per serving, we think that's the entire bottle. But in reality, it's only a third or a half of the bottle. So it fools us. So first, look at the serving size so that you make sure that you are evaluating the numbers correctly for the amount that you're consuming. Then you can look at the calories. Big Mac, I chose that because it's such a shocking um, nutrition label. 563 calories in one Big Mac. Um, and if you look to the right, you can see the calories from fat. And in this case, the Big Mac has 295 calories from fat, which is clearly more than half the calories. Whether or not something's high fat or not isn't as important as the overall balance of what you're eating. Of course, we'll learn about good fats and bad fats, and we should have more good fats than bad. But if you have something like an avocado or walnuts, those are also going to be very high fat. So I don't pay as much attention to one item's calories from fat. I look at the whole balance of what we're eating and how we put it together. So the next section is the part that I really get the most interested in: total fat, total carbohydrates, and protein. Those are all measured in grams. And in this case, the Big Mac has 33 grams of fat. It tells you the saturated fat and trans fats. We're only going to be tracking the total fat as we look at our food choices. But it is interesting to see what the saturated fat and trans fats are. Generally, you want those lower. Would like to avoid trans fats altogether as much as possible. Saturated fats, we do need some of those, but not many. So if you have a choice and you can find an item without trans fats, that's the better choice. Cholesterol, we won't be tracking. We're going to be eating more whole natural foods, and those are just generally low in cholesterol, and I don't really see that it's worth tracking too much. Sodium content is of interest. The Big Mac has 1,007 milligrams of sodium. We're going to learn a lot more about sodium later. I'm going to write an in-depth article about it because it's a very important topic. Generally, when I looked at nutrition labels for years, I just blew right past the sodium content. Did not pay much attention until my husband developed higher blood pressure and we decided to cut sodium out of our diet as much as possible. And I was really surprised that so many common things that I thought were good choices to bring home actually were high in sodium. Salad dressing, breads, cottage cheese, the can of tuna. Of course, anything canned is usually high in sodium, but I just didn't think the tuna would be. So I always read the sodium content, and I encourage you to get in the habit of doing that too. Carbohydrates, 44 grams in the Big Mac. And again, carbohydrates in general are not bad or good, though there may be better choices than others. When we're looking at carbohydrates, we look again at the full balance of everything that we eat at any given time and not just one item. When we are choosing the best foods, we prefer to have food items that are higher in fiber and lower in sugars. When it lists the sugars, those are the sugars that tend to be easily digested. They raise your blood sugar, which can then raise your insulin, and that's not a good pattern to develop. Whereas foods that are higher in fiber do so much for you. They lower your blood sugar, they slow down the absorption of the carbohydrates, they improve the health of the colon, they lower your cholesterol. So anytime you have a choice, you should choose the food that has higher fiber content. When I choose tortillas at the grocery store, I stand there for 15 minutes, or I have stood there for 15 minutes, reading the labels and trying to find the best one in relation to fat, sodium, carbs, the fiber, and protein. And I'll share which one I finally have settled on that I think is the best choice. But it is very high in fiber, and that was one of the reasons that I chose it. And then lastly are the protein grams, and the Big Mac is relatively high in protein at 26 grams. So I hope this is helpful. We'll go over the bottom part of the nutrition label a little in a separate video. Don't spend a lot of time on that, but I would like you to understand what it means so that it's not confusing to you. Thanks a lot, and hopefully this one will work a little bit better than the first try did.